I think I found the perfect screen resolution so that you can easily see everything, including myself. Hopefully, it still uploads as a high definition though. If I change it to 800 by 600, it'd upgrade in poor quality. But we'll see. Okay, last time we were talking about the for loop. Um, we had the loop construct, and then we had our for loop. So for counter in one dot dot five loop and then end loop, and then we added them together. And I gave you the assignment to write one using a looping construct to multiply numbers. Well, there's one more that we haven't looked at yet, and that's the while. While is begin, end. Now this is where you need to keep track of like a counter. And I got a counter, remember, declared up here. It's an integer. So we said counter is equal to 0. Now the counter we're going to increase by 1 each time through our loop. Though you don't have to increase it by 1, you can increase it by 2, you could increase it by whatever. In our case, we'll increase it by 1 to begin with. So we'll add all the numbers from 1 to 5 again. Now, let me actually put 1 here. We'll say while counter is less than or equal to 5. We could have done while counter is less than 6. That would have worked also. Then we're going to loop. And down here we'll do our end loop. Now remember, we also had a variable, the sum. And the sum was declared as an integer. Now I'm going to add counter to the sum over and over. So I need the sum to be initialized as 0. That's no different than what we did here. So initialize it to 0. Then within here, I'm going to say the sum is equal to the sum plus counter. And then important piece here is you have to increase counter by 1. Now a while loop has some important pieces to it. One of them is this initialization. So your counter, you have to initialize it something. You have your Boolean check. So this is a condition to see if it still should continue. And then you have your increment, decrement, whatever, based upon your counter. Last time I was looking for some examples where I could go by 2s, perhaps, for counter in 1.5, step 2, go from 1 to 3 to 5. And if it exists, I could not find it last time. It just isn't that powerful. The while, on the other hand, lets you do anything you want. So it isn't as restrictive as the for. So in theory, programming languages don't have to give as much functionality as the for because you can do whatever you want with the while. Okay. Now I need to print out my result. I'll do that outside of my loop. dbms output dot put line, and I'll print this up. And let me concatenate that. There we go. Now I need to call it down below. Let's see if I spelled it right. Okay. Test EB. And 5, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, yeah. They add up. They do add up to 15. Now, you're not just limited to doing something simple like adding numbers together. This opens up a wide range of items that you could do. If you remember from algebra, we had amount is equal to PE to the RT power. You could do that. We had our quadratic formula. X is equal to negative B plus minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And you can go through and change A's and B's with loops, A, B's, and C's with loops. So it's kind of pretty open in what you can do on that. We're going to be working with looping in terms of going through databases. So that's our main goal. So I'm not going into this as much depth. I'm just kind of briefly covering it so we can get to the SQL part. So any questions on a while? Now, this is a procedure. What a procedure is something that you call, it runs it, and then it returns from where it's called. We also have something called a function. And I got examples of functions here. Now, a function is the same principle. You're going to call it, but with a function, you can pass in parameters, and it can return a value, which is a little bit more powerful than procedures. So it gives us more flexibility. Now, they do almost the same items, except for this. This allows parameters and allows a return value. Other than that, you could program adding these numbers together, so forth. Maybe I'll show that. I'll combine function with a with parameters into a for loop or while loop or something like that. Maybe a while loop. Okay. So this example I've created here, I created 3 variables. Some t is an integer, n1 is an integer, n2 is an integer. Now I created a function, and we put this is the reserved word function, and this is whatever you want to call it. I called mine add num, even though I'm not actually adding anything. Then I do a return number is, and notice these are all reserved words there. And total is our name of our variable, and it's an integer. Now, down here, I'm going to retrieve the value into another variable and then print it out. And when I have this all defined here, I can actually return whatever down here. I don't have to assign it to a variable called total. So when this gets done running, when I call it, it comes down here, does all that. That's all the header information. Comes down to this return 3. Comes up here, we got a number, and this is the name of what's going to be returned, and it's an integer. Now the name doesn't really have any kind of bearing except for the definition right here, because when I do a return 3, it's going to come down here and it's going to assign that to my variable sum t, which is also an integer, and then print out the result. Does that make sense on what that's doing? What specific question do you have on that? Yes. No. That's just outlining, giving it a name to what you're going to be sending back. Yeah, it's putting 3 into the total, but in return, that's assigning it to some t. So we don't really use total at all. You know, I could have put T1 there. And see, I just printed a 3. Yeah, so it doesn't make much sense to me either. It's just like, well, why put a name there if you're not going to actually use a name? But it just has to correspond, so we have something to temporarily put this in. This is how I think about it. Temporarily put it in, so then we can return it to wherever it's called from. Yeah, it's quite different, isn't it? Here's another example I created where I pass in parameters. And so I got my function add num2, and this, we will use these names. So here I got num1 in integer and num2 in integer. So bring those in as input, and they're both integers. And then down here we got the same way. We're defining what we're going to send back. And here I declare a variable. So I declare t. So I simply bring in what they have, num1 plus num2, add them together, assign it to t, and then I return t. So when this gets called down below here, it's going to pass in 2 numbers. It's going to return a value and assign it to some t. When the return gets done operating, it basically replaces all of that with whatever the number is. For example, if I put 3 and 4 in for n1 and n2, it would add it together in the function, and then return 7, and it replace that entire side there with 7, which then gets assigned to some t. Now remember, the little ampersands, the and symbols, is what prompts us to enter the values. So if I do 3, 4, you see we get 7. Now, let's see if I can find some examples. It's going slow for some reason. Oh well, I'll use one of these pages. Okay, so for examples here. The syntax is a little bit different with what we're working with. In this example, they have 3 declarations, A, B, and C, and they're all numbers. And find max, we're going to bring in 2 numbers, and we're going to return a number, and then say is Z number. Now, you'll see here that they do a return Z, so they actually use a Z. But we saw earlier they don't have to do that. See, it still works if you do that. So if you want to use that, you can, but it doesn't care. Whatever you return right here, whether they match or not, it works. Like I say, I don't know why they have that, but anyway, they have Z defined here, and here they're just simply checking. If X is greater than Y, then Z is equal to X, else Z is equal to Y. Remember, threw me for a minute, because other languages that would not work on. See how it's uppercase Z and this is lowercase z? But remember, PLSQL doesn't care. You can intermix the letters. So all this does is return the maximum. Now when I call it down here, I have assigned 2 values here. I call find max, and I'm passing in those 2 with commas between them. It's returning it to C, and then I can concatenate that over here to print it out. I'm not going to show recursive functions. This I'll have to Google because I'm not sure how to do it, but it'll be kind of fun to try. We'll see how to program the quadratic formula, which is x is equal to negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all of that over 2a. And that's what we're going to create a function for. So we got our function, and I'm not sure if we can return 2 values, but we'll try. I'll try different variations of that. Well, we're assigning it to equal to 1 value, so I bet it's only 1 value. There's only one programming language I think that allows you to return 2 values. I think that's Python. So quad formula plus. So that'll be the plus version of this. We're going to be bringing in three values, A, B, and C. And we're going to return our answer and double. And I guess if I go ahead and use that, I don't need to declare any variables here. What am I down to? That's not my begin. It's my main program. And so let's see. Begin, end. One thing I don't know how to do is the square root, so that's part I'll have to investigate. Answer is equal to, beginning parentheses are on top, -1 times b plus square root, obviously not that, but math dot. Oh, I'll come back to that. B squared, I think it was asterisk, wasn't it? Minus 4 times A times C. Close parentheses for the square root, close parentheses for the top, divided by, beginning parentheses, 2 times A down below. Return answer. Doesn't give me an error in the square root. Maybe that's right. Okay. So answer is equal to let's try to think of an example. -5, 6. dbms underscore output dot put line. My answer. Line 25. Okay, so line 25. It'll be here. Is it semicolons? No, commas. Unless it was my comments. Let's try that. Yeah, this is where I was getting the code to print whenever I had an error. Okay. Line 10.2 expected one of the following. Line 22. I bet it's lying. SQL Square Root function. Well, yeah, that looks right then. Square root of 9. Nice if they actually told us where the error was. It says it's right here, which means it must be this following it. let's get rid of that. And A is double. B is double. C double. Okay, so A is equal to 1, B is equal to -5, C is equal to 6. Let's run it. Let me get rid of those down here. I'm going to clear this off just to make sure I'm looking at fresh stuff. Okay. Line 5, column 19. Counted for the symbol when expected one of the following. Line 9, line 5, column 19. Well, I don't think there's any problem up there, so maybe it's down below. That's the only line number it gives me. Quad Formula Plus. Quad Formula Plus. Let's try that. Still in line 5. Well, let's comment that out and run it. Okay, didn't like that. Let's make sure this is where the problem is. So it has nothing to do with the function I just put in there. Because it's not there. Control Z, I'll put that back. That's got me puzzled. Of course, I haven't declared an answer, have I? Okay, so still got the error. Get rid of my formula plus here. And delete those. I spelled double right. I've used double before, haven't I? I am not seeing this. I didn't like that. Well, no. Let's see. Clear this off. Make sure I'm starting fresh. Did not like my doubles. Hmm. I would have swore money that I've used those before. Or is it real? It's real, isn't it? I bet. Yeah, I was trying to be lazy. The benefit of using numbers, you control exactly how much space it's going to take. No, I didn't like that. Let me put numbers in there. Didn't like something there. Number, comma. Hmm. Oh, in fact, I'm calling it down here. Okay. It's a different error. Let's say quadratic formula. Okay, so I got that in there again. I've hard coded these. Line 27. That return number is unless I need to change number to. Of course, it didn't like double up above, did it? Wonder if I can put that in here. 2. Then for a B must be declared. Guess maybe I've never used double. Okay, that looks better. No, I don't think no errors. Okay, yeah, no errors. Okay, finally. Now what do I need to fix? I need to pass in A in number 33.2, B in number 33.2, C in number 33.2. So I don't have to specify the size. Okay, so then get rid of these declarations. Down here, I'll pass in 1, -5, 6. Expression A cannot be used as an assignment target. Real. I guess there is no double. Yeah, I must be thinking of a different programming language because there sure is no double over here. Um, well, oh, unless it's because I'm assigning it there. Let's try that. Okay, no errors. That's a promising sign. So down here, okay, print out the value there. Get rid of these. Just make sure that our 3 is one we want. It should, it factors as x minus 2, x minus 3, so it should be fine. But just to be on the safe side, it prints 3. Okay, so for our negative version of that, I apologize. I thought sure I used double. We'll change this to a minus. And then this will be a minus. And then down here, oops, yeah, it's minus. Everything else should be fine. Answer is going to equal to quad formula minus 1, -5, 6, dbms output dot put line answer. And we get 2 and 3. Okay, so it's working now. But that's how you can build a function where you're passing in the parameters. Just got to use the right data types, I guess. Not imaginary ones you make up from another language. We're returning the answer. So again, you can assign it directly there. I could even just simply do a return on all of this. So for example, if I simply said return and did that, that would work. So it is kind of weird that you declare this, but you don't actually have to use it. I could have it another variable and return that variable, and it works. So, any questions on functions? Okay. Well, we're past the basic structures and some of the basic constructs of programming in PLSQL. So we're going to get into the database items now. We've created a database. We looked at some of the SQL. We've looked at some of our constructs now. And we haven't gone into everything you can do with these looping and if statements and so forth. That wasn't our goal. It was to get us to this point. This is a program I went ahead and wrote, and I'm going to talk about what it's doing and so forth. Set server output on, of course, declare. Here I'm declaring a type. And this is going to be a reference cursor. A cursor is what we're going to use to retrieve data. So we'll put like a SQL statement in it. We'll insert, all that. Okay, so all of this is exactly like that, except for you can name it wherever you want. I call it CV underscore type. Now, to use it, this is declaring a type. This hasn't actually declared something you can work with. So to use it, we have to declare CV, or whatever name you want to call it, and CV underscore type. Now here I just created a variable so I could return it into it. Got our begin and end here. We're going to open, it's kind of like you're opening the connection. Open CV4, and this is where we put our select statement. Now I've just got a simple select region, so that's going to return one field. From my sales, where total is equal to 57.71. I wanted to pick just one record, so I tried to look for something unique where it only pulled one record. This example here is strictly for one record. It's not for many records. After I open it, then I have to do the fetch. Now what the fetch does is it retrieves the values that this select statement pulls, in this case region, retrieves that, and you tell it where you want to put it. So I fetch CV into P underscore region. Now region is a varchar 2, 26, I think, when I looked. And so that's why I declared that the same. And then I simply print that out. And remember to close your cursor. Now if I run that, there we go. It simply prints east. Is there any questions on that program? CV is your cursor. Yeah, it's not a table. It's not like you're making a connection to a table, because this select statement could have two tables linked together. It's like a temporary space that's going to return your results, and the results come from whatever this is. Now, if I get rid of the where, this will return a lot of records. So if I get rid of that, and if I run it, let me clear that off. If I run it, you see that it still just prints east, even though this would have returned a lot of records. Do Control Z on that. So if you're going to do a fetch, you want to make sure that what you're doing this select on will only return one record. For example, I got a count at Amazon. How many people do you think have my customer number? Or I mean, how many customers have my customer number? Well, just me. I'm the only one that has that. Yeah, I'm the only one that has that customer number. So that would be a search that would return one value. I'm looking at this book on my desk, and it's got an ISBN number 156592457 There's only one book that has that ISBN number. You won't have two titles. So those are perfect examples of when this would work. Right. Now, on the other hand, if we had many records we're going to pull, like where I do get rid of that where statement on that. You see here, I got my, I define my type for my cursor. Here, I create CV so I can work with it. I again have P region, so I really haven't changed anything. Now I'm going to open the cursor for this select statement. And then now I'm going to have a loop. The reason why I have a loop is because I have many records that I'm going to return. And I have an end loop down here. So this is why we looked at that loop construct earlier, because you have to handle that when you got many records you're returning. I again do a fetch CV into P underscore region. And here I have an exit when CV not found. So this is what causes us, it'll keep going through because the cursor returns all of your records. And then you're looping through the results. And when there's no more results, then this will exit out of the loop. It'll come down here and close the cursor. Is that or is there any questions on that part? Okay, if I run that, unknown command. It's interesting. What did that change? Oh, I don't know where that came from. But you'll see all the regions. So this is one for each record. Now, let's see. Item and rep. Item and rep. P item. Let's see if I remember how to do two without mixing it up with other languages. Item to underscore item. Notice here, I did the region and I did the item. So how you do that is you add another variable up here and have to have the same as your setup here. You put region first, comma, item. This returns two of my columns. And then you just have to have them right here. Notice they should be in the same order as what you got there. Just the fact I named this P underscore item, I didn't have to. I could have named it David. The order would match the order here. Now let me get brave. I kind of got kind of leery there with working with that double. But I'm going to try to bring in like total, which is a number 3815. Okay, so P underscore total. Number, no memory. Let's try that though, 33.2. 38. Let's see if that how that works though. And then do a comma, total, comma, total here. And concatenate that on down here. do a put. Okay, and anything else? I think that's it. So if I run that, you see it now puts my total under. Now we can do different things with that total. I could take square root of the total if I wanted to. I could do some kind of math operation. I could sum it. Making that the same size may not be the best choice because if I'm summing it, it may exceed the limits of this this number. But go with that. The sum is equal to 0. And down here, after I retrieved it, now I want to put it after the exit because if it doesn't find it, I don't want to try to add it. Then I'm going to say the sum is equal to the sum plus p underscore total. And down here, after I close the cursor, I want to print out the sum. So dbms output dot put line total equals, then concatenate, and then I'm going to call it the sum. And I have no idea why this keeps telling me this. And see, it gives us our grand total here at the bottom. So if I were to add all these up, then that would give me that. Oracle provided something that a lot of the other database engines didn't provide. Every relational database engine provides SQL, so you can query against it and so forth. But not every database has put a programming language combined with SQL to give you the total power you had with programming combined with database interactions. Is there any questions on that? That right there. Okay, now let me declare a bar chart 2 up here. Just had C++ before this, and I was gonna declare a variable called string. So that ain't right. The string is equal to select region item total from my sales. And put the string there. Okay, so if I run this script, yeah, I thought I could do that. String length. Okay, let's try it again. Character buffer string too small. So how big does it have to be? Maybe I had more characters than okay, let's try that. There it goes. I think what I'd done is I put a number that's smaller than the number of characters I had here. Should have counted. Okay, so I no longer hard-coded this, did I? Which means the string, is it plus or this? Let's try that. And where region, I won't get this right because you have to do some have some special quotes there, I believe. Okay, let me choose an easier one. Where the maybe I don't even got it anymore. Where total is equal to 5771. Where total is equal to 5771. Okay, so let's run that first, see if I've got the right concatenation operator. Okay, so that worked. Now, total 33 to concatenate that with param total. See how this works. So 5771. This. Now notice what I did. I no longer pulled everything, and I didn't hard code it. By putting the ampersand here, it allowed me to prompt the person to input the value. So you can dynamically build the SQL string based upon what you find. You can search through one table, and based upon the results of that table, you could dynamically build another SQL statement. Now, strings you have to do a little bit differently, because what strings is you have to, your SQL something like this. Select a star from my sales, where name is like or equals, I think, David, like that. Well, the problem with that is this is a single quote, and our single quote is what we use to designate our string. So I'll play with that before next time, because I'm about out of time anyway. But there's a way to do it. I think you had to put 3 single quotes together, but we'll see. Questions on any of that? Well, I'm going to have 2 assignments on that. One assignment will be to write a function where, and again, I know it's boring for me to keep having you do physics formulas in different classes, but I'm going to have you write a function for one of the physics formulas where you'll pass in parameters and you'll return the answer. So nothing exciting. It just gives you a practice on the functions. And then I'm going to tell you something I want you to pull from our My Sales database. You should have that. That should be the one you loaded. You should have the same data as me. But I'll tell you what information I want you to pull, and then I want you to figure out how to implement that in this. So it won't be exactly like this, but it'll be similar. Questions on anything? Oh, I'd love a math one. I'm big in math, but since I don't require math for any of the programming classes, I try to not go down it too much. There's that calculus one. I don't know if you remember it, but it's where you know, finding zeros on the calculator. There's a calculus where it goes through and finds those zeros. So on your calculator, where you're doing the intersect method, it's running that calculus procedure. But since you've never seen it, then that's fine. But yeah, definitely you can use a math formula. So, well, we'll go ahead and stop there then.